Hi, I'm Cyril and this is my daughter Nora. Growing up, I thought I had a pretty good idea of what nutrition was. But it took me having a heart attack to see how out of whack the foods I was eating was. And it all starts at the supermarket. I know what you're thinking. Where do we go from here? Well, it's a good thing I'm meeting my friend Megan. She's a dietitian at the RVH cardiac unit. She's going to help us through the pros and the cons and the do's and the don'ts of good cardiac health and diet. So let's go meet Megan now. Come on. Hi, Megan.
Hi, Cyril.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. So Megan, what exactly is a heart healthy diet? You know, what are some foods that I can fill my cart with that are healthy and tasty and stuff that the old Cyril wouldn't buy?
So the first thing I think about when making a heart-healthy diet is looking at the plate. Trying to make half your plate filled with fruits and vegetables, a quarter of your plate filled with starches, and a quarter filled with meat or meat alternatives. This allows for your plate to have lots of vitamins, minerals, lots of fiber to fill you up, and the right amount of protein. So a healthy diet like this can help to reduce your cholesterol levels, improve your blood sugar, improve your body weight, give you a lot of feeling of fullness, which helps with weight loss, and then also prevents from any further cardiac events or further heart disease. So just because you're eating less saturated fat, sugar, salt, does not mean you can't enjoy your food. So try to find foods that you still like, and remember that variety and moderation is key. That'll help you make sure that you enjoy your diet still.
So here the big hint is to stick to the outside of the supermarket.
Of course, that's a good strategy to start with, and we can start here at the fruit and the vegetable section. So like I said, trying to make half your plate filled with fruits and vegetables. So there's lots of great fruits and vegetables that you can choose from. The key is to look for lots of color, so a variety in color. So there's lots of green here, there's some radishes with the red. We have some fruit over here, some strawberries, blackberries, blueberries. So trying to get a lot of color because that allows for a big variety in vitamins and minerals and also some antioxidants.
You know, I'm not really a veggie guy, so how can Nora and I get the vegetables that we need to help provide a better diet?
So something that I recommend to a lot of people is just throwing lots of fruits and vegetables into your dishes. So say you're making a spaghetti sauce, put some peppers, put lots of tomatoes, anything else you can think of that you like, zucchini, throw into your pasta sauce so that you can make sure that you get those vegetables without really noticing. Another tip is just eat your vegetables and fruit in different ways. So whether you're cooking them or steaming them, roasting them, put them in a stir fry, or even eat them raw. So there's a common misconception that fruits and vegetables are too expensive to eat every day. Really, there's some tips that you can follow to try and make them more affordable and include them regularly in your everyday diet. So looking for fruits and vegetables in season. For example, we have some strawberries here that are freshly picked and good in season. So that would be a good thing to add to your cart. And then also things like lettuce. So right now lettuce is right in season. So picking up some fresh lettuce, this will help to save you time and money.
There you go.
Another thing to try is to use frozen fruits and vegetables. They flash freeze the fruits and vegetables right after they pick them, so you can enjoy the fruits and vegetables frozen without losing a lot of their vitamins and minerals. So now that we've looked at the fruits and vegetable section, why don't we head over to the grains?
Cool. So my usual go-to meal is a sandwich, like in our picnic today.
Yeah.
Is there any hints or tips that you can give us to make your sandwich more healthy?
Yeah, for sure. So first off, we usually start our sandwiches with some sort of bread. So I always tell people to try and look for a whole wheat or whole grain bread when they're looking for breads. This ensures that we get as many vitamins and nutrients, especially B vitamins and fiber, in our meal. Okay? Another tip would be trying to avoid those processed meats. Those have extra salt and extra fat added into them. So we want to try and avoid those. But using things like leftover meat from the night before, doing a tuna or a salmon, or also an egg salad sandwich can be a great alternative. Also add some vegetables onto your sandwich. So do some lettuce, tomatoes, some peppers, and try and minimize the amount of high-fat sauces that you put on.
That's fantastic. And besides bread, how else can I incorporate grains into my diet?
Of course, so using things like quinoa, oat bran, bulgur, barley, even brown rice, wild rice, those are all great sources that still have the fiber and have lots of vitamins and minerals in them.
So traditionally, I like to have meat with my meals. You know, steak or chicken, fish, sausage, but now especially during barbecue season. But how much is too much?
So you really don't need that much protein in your diet to meet your needs. Typically we say a quarter of your plate, like I mentioned before, or the size and thickness of your palm. Try and choose leaner forms of meat, like chicken or fish, and eat those more often. Try to avoid adding extra fat to your meat as well. So avoid any creamy sauces or condiments that have a lot of extra fat and salt on them.
I can't see myself going 100% vegetarian, but is there any alternatives so I can get my protein?
Yeah, there's lots. Let's go check some out. So we could use things like hummus. So hummus is a great meat alternative. It's got lots of protein and it's low in fat. Also adding things like beans and legumes to your soups or your chilies or even your spaghetti sauce can help increase the protein without adding a whole lot of fat. Something that's very versatile is tofu. So tofu takes on the flavor of whatever you pair it with. So you could put it in a soup, you could put it in a smoothie, gives you a little bit of extra protein and you barely even notice it's there. There's lots of nuts and seeds, so these are a great source of protein. Just be careful with portion sizes as they are a bit higher in fats. They are the good fats, but the calories still add up pretty fast.
So we've talked about reducing fat. So what's heart-healthy fat?
So fat is essential in our diet. We need some of it. It provides some energy, it helps with our daily body processes, and it also helps with certain vitamin absorption. So it is important to include some fat in our diet. It's just what fats. There are two main types of fats, saturated and unsaturated.
What's saturated fat?
So I think you mean saturated fats. So saturated fats are what we commonly see on meats and in dairy products. So luckily in dairy products, we can get rid of most of the saturated fats through buying 1% or skim milks and trying to choose lower fat yogurts and cheese. Unsaturated fats, so these are often ones that we find in vegetable sources of fat. So things like avocados, nuts and seeds, olive oil, canola oil, all of these are good choices when you're cooking or frying food. So a good way to tell what's saturated and unsaturated is to look at the consistency of the oil. If the consistency is liquid, then it's likely that the oil is primarily unsaturated. If we look at something like coconut oil, you can see that this is completely solid. So this contains primarily saturated fats, so it's one to eat in moderation. So in addition to fats, it's also important to learn a bit about sodium and then also nutrition labels so that you can take the information that we learned today and bring it home.
I've heard of sea salt, Himalayan salt, iodized salt. Is there a difference between salts?
What I usually say is salt. They all have about the same percentage of sodium in them. So just trying to avoid them or use as little as possible is a good goal.
So how much salt can we have in a day?
It's important to have some salt in your day because it does again help with your body functions. So trying to stick to about 1,500 milligrams a day is a good goal. The upper limit that we don't want people to go over is 2,300 milligrams, and that's only 1 teaspoon a day.
1 teaspoon of salt a day.
1 teaspoon of salt is your daily intake of sodium.
Wow. That seems like a little bit compared to what we have.
I know. Ways that we can watch how much sodium is added to our diet is by using other items and salt-free items to season our meats, our vegetables, and so on. So using salt-free seasonings, using garlic powder, onion powder, using vinegar, lemon juices, and any fresh herbs that you have in your garden. Trying to watch out for condiments because a lot of condiments have hidden salt inside of it. A high salt diet can also increase your risk of high blood pressure and congestive heart failure. So you really want to try and watch your salt intake to avoid further complications down the road. So now that we have a good understanding of a heart healthy plate, let's look at the label. The first thing we want to look at is the portion size. So the portion size is always at the top. This is an important guide because we want to be able to determine how much are we actually going to eat versus how much is this nutrition label representing. This portion size is also good if you're comparing two products, such as two different types of crackers. You want to make sure that you're comparing the same quantity versus one box that may have 20 grams of crackers, for instance. So always trying to compare the same amount of food. The next thing we want to look at, especially for a heart healthy diet, is to look at the fat and the salt. So the fat label contains the saturated and trans fats. So those are the ones that are the most harmful for our heart. So we want to try and keep those as low as possible. Saturated fats on this cracker have 1 gram of fat. A good way to look at this and think about how much you can have a day is to look at the percent daily value. So the percent daily value represents how much you can have in a day put into a percentage. So for this box of crackers, it's 5% out of your allotted 100%. Okay? So trying to see what you're eating throughout the day and try to make sure you don't go over that 100% limit.
So realistically, if I'm sitting down at nighttime watching Netflix, I'm looking at the total size of 125 grams. One serving is 15 grams, which is 4 crackers. So that's about 10 servings. So when I'm going in and reaching in and grabbing a handful, I'm looking at almost 4 or 5 servings, which is almost 700 milligrams of salt. How much salt are we supposed to have in a day?
We're supposed to try and aim for 1,500 milligrams per day.
So that's almost half of my daily salt in one handful.
Exactly.
Wow.
So here's a new nutrition label. So as you can see the difference, the calories are bolder. Carbohydrates have moved up the nutrition label, so it's right under. And now they include a percent daily value for sugar. So you can see how much you should have throughout the day.
So junk food in moderation.
Exactly.
So now that heart health starts at the market, and all the tips we've learned from Megan, we can now go home and prep for lunch.
The first thing we always like to say is trying to cook your meals at home. When you do this, you save on the amount of salt in your food. You know exactly what's in your food, so usually it's healthier and a bit better for you. But we always recommend that you try and eat 1 to 2 hours within waking up. After that, try to eat every 3 to 4 hours for 3 meals a day. If you feel hungry between meals, try choosing small, light, healthy snacks. With fruit, there is a lot of good qualities about the fruit. It's got a lot of nutrients and fiber to it, but it also does have some natural sugars. So we don't want to overdo it on fruit, but having a serving with each meal is fine.
I really like almonds, but I just take handful after handful. What's the normal portion size?
So with almonds and any other nuts, we want to try and stick with 1/4 cup. This gives you the benefits of the healthy fats, but doesn't add up the calories all that much. So we really want to watch portion sizes with things like nuts and peanut butter and certain cereals. So when you're having your meals and snacks throughout the day, instead of choosing pops and juices, try and stick to just plain water.
Water's great, and I love cooking, but I like to have a glass of wine when I'm cooking. Is that cool?
Yeah, so the recommendations for alcohol is 1 glass a day for women and 2 glasses a day for men.
So is this a glass or is this a glass?
I would say this one is more of a glass, and 5 ounces would probably go till about here. So now that we've talked about snacks, let's talk about your main meal. So trying to make half of your plate fruits and vegetables, 1/4 of your plate or the size of your fist, grains or starches. Trying to choose whole grains or brown rice allows you to get that extra fiber into you, which is good for your heart health. And then the last section is the protein section. So this section is based on about the size of your palm.
So my palm is a little bit bigger than your palm. Does that mean my portion's going to be a little bit bigger?
It will be a little bit bigger, yes.
Okay.
So if we were to judge this chicken with my palm, it might be a little bit big. Okay, so all we would have to do is maybe cut off the end, and we could save the rest of that chicken for salad the next day. Put some leftover chicken on your salad.
So for my hand, that would be just about right.
That would be perfect. So one thing I will mention is to be careful with anything pre-packaged, like sauces, even barbecue sauces, ketchup. Those all have a lot of salt in them. So just using them sparingly, right? You can still use little amounts, but be aware that 1 tablespoon will contribute a lot of sodium to your diet.
How much salt is too much salt?
Okay, so you're not gonna like this, Cyril, but by the end of the day, this is all of the sodium that we want in a day. It's equivalent to about 1 teaspoon.
That's all the salt we have for a day.
So that's all the salt we have in a day.
You know, I'm not a big fan of the vegetables, especially celery. But when cooking with vegetables, how do I know if I overboiled them?
So the key is when you're cooking or steaming your vegetables, for instance with broccoli, look in, make sure that the color is not leaching out or that the color of the broccoli isn't dulling. A lot of that is the nutrients coming out of the broccoli, so we don't want to lose those important nutrients.
Okay.
And then take your fork, take a knife, and put that into your broccoli or whatever vegetable it is. If it falls apart easily, then you've probably overdone it. If you can stick the fork in and out easily, but it doesn't fall apart, then that probably means it's done.
Cool.
So here's an example of an overcooked broccoli versus a well-cooked broccoli. First of all, you can definitely see the color difference. All those nutrients are still in this one that's well-cooked. And this one that's overcooked, you can see that it's already falling apart. And easily, it falls apart as we put the fork in. If you accidentally do this, saving the water though and using it the next day in a soup or in a smoothie is a good idea. You can see this one is a bit more hard, but the nutrients are in there.
So we're all super busy, you know, and we tend to pick up things that are not healthy for us when we're in a hurry. Is there some things that we can do to stay on track and keep a healthy diet?
For sure. So the number one thing that I always say is trying to plan. Always try to have a plan. These pamphlets are very helpful. So these give you kind of each day of the week and allow you to create a plan for what you're going to eat each day. So it gives you dinner and then lunch and breakfast and even snacks. So trying to fill this out at the beginning of each week, and then once you fill it out, determine exactly what groceries you need. That can help make sure that you have a plan every day, and even if you're in a time pinch, you can have a fast, easy meal that you can prepare with all the ingredients at your house.
Now that we've learned so much, I'm ready to pack lunch for me and Nora.
Perfect. So we have our fresh bread from the bakery. So start with that. We did choose a whole grain bread.
Good.
So starting with that, having your slices, putting the tuna on, so that's your protein. So I mentioned at the store, trying to stay away from the processed meats. Sticking to a tuna or an egg or leftover meat from the night before would be a better option.
So would portion size come into play here too?
Same portion size as the chicken, so about the size of your palm. Again. Okay, so that takes up about the amount of bread you have. And then adding your toppings. So again, we still want to include half your plate as fruits and vegetables. So adding some lettuce, some tomato, having some vegetable sticks on the side can work, or even some strawberries, apples, or even grapes on the side.
And we had talked about olive oils and saturated fats. What about mayonnaise? I use that on sandwiches.
Yeah, so trying to get the low fat version. So this one's half the fat. Putting as little as possible, right? So just enough to flavor, to give you a bit of flavor and moisture, but don't lay it on thickly. Recently, Canada's food guide was updated. So all of the information that we talked about today, including serving sizes and even more recipes, is on that website. So just visiting the Government of Canada website and looking for the food guide, there's lots of information on there. Also, you can look for a lot of this information on the Heart and Stroke Foundation's website. So that book that you got when you were in the hospital, on living with heart disease has a lot of the information, and that is reinforced on the Heart and Stroke Foundation website.
Thank you for all this information. We're going to have a fantastic lunch. So let's start packing up, and I'll go get Nora.
Awesome.
Cool. Nutrition has been one of the most important components in recovering from my heart attack. In cardiac rehab, I was re-taught how to eat properly and how to better manage nutrition choices. Think of food as fuel. We put more care into our cars than we do our own bodies. You wouldn't put diesel in a gas engine, right? It's a poor life choice. So stick to the outside track at the supermarket and join us on the road to healthier eating. And we've got a place set for you.